guys, welcome to the second part of the section 1. In this video, we're going to talk about elements of art and especially formal qualities of art. If you go into our share drive, you will find a PowerPoint that looks like this, and that will be our focus for today. So, formal qualities of art. You really want to pay attention to line, shape and form, perspective, color, texture, and composition. So what is a line? The strict definition of a line is the path of a point moving through space. And line is used to express ideas or feelings visually. Horizontal and vertical lines create a stable and static feeling. We have two types of lines, they are vertical and horizontal. So vertical lines cause the eyes to move upward, like medieval churches were created with very high arch ceilings, designed to raise the eyes of the people upward toward heaven to promote a feeling of spiritual awe. And then we have horizontal lines, such as the lines of the horizon, suggest a feeling of peace and tranquility, while curving and jagged lines create a sense of activity. The second one is about shape and form. So what is shape and form? Or what are them? So shape is what defines the two-dimension area of an object, like geometric shape, a sense of order and stability, and organic shape to express movement and rhythm. Forms are objects that are three-dimensional, having length, width, and depth, such as a square is a shape, but for example, a square is a shape, but a cube is a form. Space is an element of art related to the organization of objects and the areas around them. We have positive space and negative space. Those are the two types of space. Positive space is where the objects or figures, shapes or forms in an artwork occupy what is termed positive space. So what the object occupied in an artwork. And negative space is the area around these objects or shapes or open spaces around or within the forms. So we have 3D artworks that include architecture, ceramic objects, and then sculptures. We have two types of 3D artworks. The first one is called freestanding, means unattached to the background and has space on all sides, can be viewed from all sides. So that's a definition for freestanding. The second type of 3D artworks is called relief, meaning that the sculpture projects from a surface or background of which it is a part, so you cannot view it from every single angle. Alright. Oops. Sorry, I just made a mistake here, so 3D artwork, this is not two types. Let me delete that. And then that's a definition of 3D artworks. And then we also have relief. Okay. Hold on a second. Oh, sorry, I just confused myself. Yeah, so the second type is the relief, and then underneath the relief, we also have two types of relief: high relief and low relief. High relief is the projecting boldly from the surface, and low relief projecting only slightly from the surface of the sculpture. And then here's the perspective. So perspective is known as the illusion of depth, another important use of space in 2D artworks. So for perspective, we really want to focus on shading and highlighting because they create three-dimensional objects. And then object or figures lower on the picture's plan appear to be closer to the viewer, and if object or figures that are higher on the picture, they tend to be further away from the viewer. Larger means closer, smaller means further away, and greater means if they are greater means they are close to you, and details also means an object is close to you. Okay, and aerial perspective. So yeah, and then we go to talk about different types of perspectives. So we have two different types. The first one is called aerial perspective, and the second one is called linear perspective. So aerial perspective, also called the atmospheric perspective, represents how fog, smoke, and airborne particles change the appearance of objects far from a distance. Objects that are lighter, more neutral in color, and lack contrast of colors or values. The second type of perspective is called linear perspective. Linear perspective is a system of creating an illusion of depth on a flat surface by using parallel lines and has a vanishing point on the horizon line. So eventually you will see a like a vanishing point on the picture, and that's called linear perspective. The next one is called color. Okay, so another way of saying color is just hue. It's another way of saying it. And then we have three primary colors. I'm sure like most of you already know this: red, blue, and yellow. Secondary colors are formed from a mixture of two primary colors. So that is the definition of secondary colors right there. Alright, so when we draw, we really there's a tool called color wheel. So color wheel is developed by this guy, Sir Isaac Newton, in the 17th century. And what color wheel does is that it is a useful tool for predicting the results of mixing hues, mixing colors again. Value is often used when discussing the lightness or darkness of a color of gray. So like how so I assume like value is a measure of the lightness and darkness. Yeah. And then lighter hue, lighter color is, if you want to create a lighter color, you can add more white to the color that you already mixed. If you want to create dark colors, you definitely add black to it. Okay, so there are two important colors, black and white. They are not hues, they are not colors, because they are called neutrals because when mixing black and white, artists get grays, and that's just why they are called neutrals, because gray colors. Intensity. Intensity refers to the brightness or purity of a color. Not mixed with other colors means pure, and if mixed, then less intense. The color is less intense. Adding black or gray will also reduce intensity because you mix the color and it's not pure anymore. Warm colors include red, orange, yellow, associated with the warmth of the sun, the heat of rolling fire, the dry grass, or a late summer day. So seems like most of them are related to heat and sun or light. Cool colors include green, blue, and violet. Remind us of cool forest, mountain lakes, and snows. So those are more kind of natural. And then warm and cool colors create space. Warm colors seem to advance toward the viewer, while cool colors appear to recede. So essentially, what it's saying is that warm colors are more like seems like, yeah, like when you look at a picture, you tend to focus on the warm color first, and then your eyes go into the cool colors. Alright, so we have three different types of colors. There are local color, optical color, and arbitrary color. So local color refers to the true color of an object or area as seen in the normal daylight, irrespective of the effects of distance or reflections from other objects. Optical colors refers to the effect that special lighting has on the color of objects, such as moonlight and candlelight. Arbitrary color has emotional or aesthetic impacts. So those are the definitions of three different types of colors. The fifth one, we're close to the end, is called texture. So texture refers to how things feel or how we think they will feel if touched. So it's a quality of surface texture. We're really focusing on the surface texture right here. There are two kinds of texture. The first one is called actual texture, meaning like something they should be together. Something feel just as they appear. For example, a ceramic artist may create an actual texture on the surface of a pot or plate. Use brush strokes, yarn, rope, shiny paper shell, and other natural or manufactured materials to create textures. So it's a technique of creating actual texture. And then work in 3D world with stone, wood, metal, or some other substance will also create an actual texture. Alright, and then the second type of texture is called visual texture. So visual texture is something that is created to look like something it is not. What this means is that in a two-dimensional world, texture may be created by using patterns of lines or shapes that suggest textures. So whenever you're drawing on a paper, the paper is two-dimension, and then you intend to draw something that looks three-dimensional on the paper, and that is an example of visual texture. Okay, so you use the contrast of lights and darks on the surface to create a rough texture. The absence of such a contrast will evoke a smooth texture. Shiny surface, meaning reflect light pretty well, and then matte surfaces means soft and dual. And then the final one, I believe, is the composition. So composition refers to the artistic organization of the elements of art in both two-dimension and three-dimension world. Rhythm is the principle that we associate with a movement or pattern. Motif and pattern are two aspects of repetition. A motif is a single element of a pattern. For example, in a quilt design, one or more motifs that are repeated to create an overall pattern. A pattern involves the repetition of certain elements, color or line, or motifs within a work of art. Alright, so composition, we also talked about balance. So what is balance? Balance refers to the equal distribution of visual weight in a work of art. We have symmetrical balance. Elements of compositions are repeated exactly on both sides of the central axis. So for example, if you draw an apple and you put that into the center, you can see that both sides of the apple, they tend to look the same, and that's if you place it in the middle, that's an example of symmetrical balance. And then we also have approximate symmetry underneath symmetrical balance, this category. And it says that artists use approximate symmetry to avoid the rigidity and monotony that may accompany a symmetrical composition. So what this means is that most of the time, if you tend to put an object just in the middle of the painting, sometimes it looks boring, and then by shifting the object a little bit to the left or to the right, it will make the art more interesting. So that's called approximate symmetry. And then if we have symmetrical balance, then we definitely have asymmetrical balance. Asymmetrical balance is a visual balance that is achieved through the organizations of unlike objects. Each half is different but has equal visual weight. Right. So let's see. Asymmetrical balance, I guess an example would be you're drawing a pencil, so on one side it's an eraser, on the other side it's kind of sharp, and so it's not balanced. So if you draw that, then you draw a middle line, then you see that both sides look different, but it's also like a technique, and it's just like a type of asymmetrical balance. Alright, and this is the last slide. The And then one thing we have to know about when we want to create a three-dimensional picture or art is that we need to have a focal point. A focal point is where the eye tends to rest. So, for example, if you are drawing a road and then you tend to draw it like far away, that's the end of the road, and then for the part that towards you is where the road starts, then your eyes will approach will like how do you word that? So you if you stare at a picture, sorry about that, your eyes would just go till the end of the road, and the end of the road is where the focal point is located, because that's when the road tends to disappear. So every time if the object tends to disappear through a line, and that's where the focal point is located. Proportion refers to the size relationship among the parts of a composition. Scale refers to the dimensional relation of the parts of a work to the work in its entirety. So, for example, if you're drawing, let's see. So, for example, if you are drawing a living room, and then saying that there's painting on the wall, and then there's like a table in the living room, and then the table is close to you but the painting is far away, then you will tend to draw the then you will make the painting to look a bit small because you know that it's far away. And for the table that is close to you, you will draw it like pretty big. And so you tend to measure the size of those two objects, and you tend to calculate like how the table or the painting compared to the whole table or the painting compared to like the whole artwork. So yeah, so it's the dimensional relation of the parts of a work to the work in its entirety. Alright, and then scale can also refer to relative size of elements within the artwork. And that's all for the formal qualities of art.